My name is Parastu Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This podcast is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. If you're a woman leader in the corporate world and know or suspect that you're a highly sensitive person, the Grit Collaborative Mastermind might be for you. It's a small, invitation-only community for perceptive and empathetic women leaders to safely share their challenges and their wins, and to learn from each other and from the trained executive coach who facilitates the group conversations. The next cohort of women leaders launches September 19. For more information, go to the link in the episode description or visit www.rercoaching.com/grit-public. Today is a continuation of episode 34 with my wonderful and amazing guest, Romina. Romina and I will be guiding you on how to select the right pet for your highly sensitive child. I hope you enjoy this continuation of the episode. And then going back to the factors. So the last factor is I would highly recommend that you consider allergy and health consideration, because you don't want to get an animal and then find out that you have allergies to it. It's so easy to figure out whether you have allergies to, for example, a cat. You can go, there are cat cafes. I don't know about where you live, but where I live, there are cat cafes that you could go and spend the whole day with cats, or you could go volunteer at the SPCA and then interact with various animals that you're considering to get, just to see if you have allergies to them. Or you could go to the doctor and get tested. But that's a lot more, I think, invasive and costly. But it is a good idea if you don't have access to places that I mentioned. It is a good idea to get tested before you get an animal, especially those animals that people tend to have allergies to, such as cats. I would definitely recommend that you make sure that you don't have allergies before you get them. In my case, I got 2 cats as soon as I moved out of my parents' house and into my own house. I had promised myself, because I'm an animal lover and my parents wouldn't allow us to have animals in our home. So I told myself that when I grow up and move out of my house, my parents' house, I'm going to get cats right away. And I did. The first thing I did was get cats. I meant to get just 1 cat, but I ended up getting 2 kittens because they were brothers and they were the last of the litter, so I didn't want to separate them. So I got these cats and they were adorable and I loved them so much. But I got sick and I didn't know why I got sick. And, doctors kept, every doctor said, no, we don't see any issues. Maybe, something is in the air that's bothering you, whatever. This illness kept going on and on and on. And it was basically, I couldn't breathe very well. So finally, my uncle, who's a heart surgeon, told me, he's a cardiologist. He told me, I think you have allergies to your cats. Just give them away and see what happens. I'm like, I'm not giving away my cats. I love them and they're used to me. And who's going to adopt a 2-year-old, 2-year-old cats? So I ended up getting tested, like a more extensive test. And sure enough, I was allergic to cats, to their dander. And I had to basically turn my garage into a home for my cats because I wasn't about to get rid of them. I wasn't about to, put them to sleep. There's no way I couldn't do such a thing. Even if, even if it meant that I would die, I wouldn't be able to. I just couldn't, get rid of cats that are already used to me and, would have a hard time getting adopted.
Oh
So
yeah, they're
I
part of
just,
your life.
yeah,
Did you, I mean,
absolutely.
could you take allergy medicine or did
I
that not work?
No, it didn't work. And at that time, this is many, many years ago. This is when I was in my 20s. So it was a long time ago. And at that time, they didn't have, um, they didn't have what they have. I mean, now you could get a shot and you're good to go for months on end. I hear, at least. I haven't gotten it, but that's what my friends told me. But back then there wasn't such a thing. You had to go get the allergy shots all the time, and I just didn't have the time to go do that. And it was also very expensive. And I was in my 20s, so that wasn't an option for me. But I just turned my garage into their home, and they had access to the outdoors. So they used to be completely indoor cats, and they became outdoor cats, outdoor indoor cats, and they were happy as can be because now they were outdoors and they loved it. They explored and they loved being outside, and just we had a huge. I lived at that time in San Jose, so my house was pretty big. Um, and they loved it. They had such a great time.
Yeah, some cats just need to be outside.
Yes, yes. So those are all the factors that I was thinking of. Romina, do you have any other factors before we go into like the options for pets?
For factors for how to choose a pet, or
Yeah,
factors to consider, I
yeah.
would say consider we are right if your child is ready to take care of it or what degree they can take care of the pet.
Yeah, that's
Finances, right?
yeah,
The
absolutely.
cost of the food and grooming, if the animal needs a lot of grooming or
Hmm.
not. Some animals, people get labradoodles because they don't shed, but I think you have to take them to the groomer frequently.
Oh yes, yes. My cousin has one, and yes, and it's expensive. Yeah.
And yeah, other factors, I guess you have to think about what animal brings your child joy. Sometimes the barking dog, our dog barks a bit when she doesn't when she wants something. We're trying to train her not to do that, and she has a variety of barks.
Hmm.
One bark would be just like, oh, just some. She'll have a stranger bark, like if she's protecting us, which is a deep bark. But then there's the whiny bark, which it stresses me out. So like she wants something. Um, so it just, I guess you figure your ability to tolerate that or your ability to train the pet
Hmm.
to not have these behaviors. But the thing that like melted my heart was like that my son, even though the dog, she's a puppy, will go in his room and steal his favorite stuffed animal and run off with it. He's just told me, this dog just fills my heart with joy.
Oh, I love
So
that.
even as though there can be a hassle, could be destructive to your house, even it just the joy that they fill your children with or yourself um, is immeasurable.
Absolutely. And to add to that, I think, for example, we talked about earlier, like one of the factors was, whether you have the space or whether, it's appropriate for you, for example, to get a dog. Maybe it's better to get a smaller animal like a cat. But if your child is really excited about getting a dog, um, if you can afford it and if you can give that animal a good home and take care of it, I would highly recommend that you do that because if your child is asking for a specific type of pet, then they know, and children are so intuitive and they're so smart that they know what they need. They know, okay, the dog is going to really help me, or the cat. Like, I have a client whose child was asking for a cat for a long time, and my client had just told herself that when her cat passed, she said, okay, I'm done taking care of animals. I don't want to have another animal anymore. And so she fought her son for a very long time, but finally caved in and got him a cat. And oh my God, the change in him is just amazing. Like, he's so much happier. His nervous system is so much more regulated. He knows that, like, if he's really tense, he just, goes and looks for the cat and spends time with the cat. And, that makes him feel a lot better. And so it's just so rewarding for the child when they get the animal that they really want, rather than the animal that makes sense, to the parents. Um, of course, all the factors that we talked about, they're all important, but it's also important to take into consideration what your child really wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is financially burdensome. I have to say that with our puppy, she's eaten her beds. So you have to be prepared to know that you will probably spend a decent amount of money buying beds and
Hmm.
going to dog training classes. Even little French bulldogs, which are adorable and like very sweet, they do the same thing. They'll eat rugs, carpets, wood. I
Wow.
mean, to get around that, maybe you could get an older dog that grew out of the teething phase.
Hmm.
But just that's, it's for us, it's like, well, it's worth it because the intangible rewards we get are much greater than what we pay for a dog bed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I feel like, sometimes I think about how much money I spend on my dog. And then I think about, well, if I didn't have her, I wouldn't be alive today. And the reason I say that is because when I got sick, um, if I didn't have my dog, I definitely wouldn't be here anymore. She took such good care of me. She knew, she actually became a service dog as a result, of my illness, because she intuitively knew when my illness was going to come on, and she would let me know, by just barking like crazy when we would go out. And if anyone would come anywhere near me, she would just bark like crazy. And as I mentioned to you, she doesn't bark normally. So I was observing this behavior, and then I noticed, oh my God, it correlates with me getting sick. And so I realized that she knows before I get sick, before I know it, she knows it. And so she was able to help me through this past 3 years. Um, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dog. And of course, my caregivers, my healthcare team. But I know that she's had a profound impact, on my life, and that's just not, no amount of money can measure that.
That's amazing. Now, are you able to get her certified as a service
Yeah,
dog?
I did. I did. Yeah, my doctor, I didn't think about asking until recently. And I asked my doctor, "Hey, do you think I could get my dog to be a service dog? Because then she can go with me, like, to, you know, restaurants and things like that, because she goes with me everywhere I go." And then sometimes, when we go, for example, we go to an ice cream shop, they don't let me go in with her, and I don't like leaving my dog outside of any place. Um, I know that she wouldn't feel safe if I did that, so I refuse to do that to her. So now, with me having her as a service dog, I can take her to the ice cream shop, and they can't say anything to me. But I'm very respectful to every place that I take my dog to. She's not a destructive dog. She's very, very obedient. So I know she's going to be, a good dog when we go inside any establishment. So I feel very comfortable, taking her and not, being a burden on anyone.
Oh, that's great. And you could also, I hear there's a test you can put your dog in called the Canine Good Citizen test.
Yes.
And I think those dogs that get certified for that can be like, you can take them into hospitals for, I know there are programs where you can register your pet to be like a comfort pet.
Yes, yes. And I actually have considered that a lot, because of what she did for me. So I was thinking of taking her to Children's Hospital, um, or any hospital for that matter, really, just adults or children, or because and when my mom was in the hospital when she had a stroke, there was a man that would come in with his golden retriever, and so often I was able to, just spend time with that dog, and just that dog would let me pet her and hold her and like hug her, and she was such an amazing healer. So I know the effect that it had on me when I was in the hospital with my mom for, I think we were there for 2 months or something like that. And this dog came so frequently. And I really appreciated having that. So I thought, okay, I feel like my dog is the same. She's a healer and she's really good with people. So I definitely want to take advantage of that and take her. I just have to make sure she can handle it because she's very empathetic, and she very much cares about other people. For example, if we see an elderly person come down steps, there are steps by where we live, and if she sees an elderly person come down those steps, she waits until that person is at the bottom of the staircase before she would continue on her walk. She absolutely refuses to take another step until that person is at the bottom of the staircase. And I think that's so amazing, that she cares. And we don't even know that person that's coming down the staircase. It's just that she realizes, oh, this person is fragile. Let me make sure that they're going to be okay, before I move on, which is, to me, is just so impressive.
Oh, yeah, that is amazing. Well, I hear the border collies are just amazingly smart.
Yeah, she's very smart. She
Well,
tries
speaking
to,
of breed, and we're talking about dogs a lot. I
yeah,
think it's also important to select the right breed.
yes,
We did,
absolutely.
we chose a German Shepherd because we wanted a family dog. So
Hmm.
we got a female that is protective, but also very sensitive and
Hmm.
trainable. We considered a poodle as well because I understand that poodles are very sensitive
Hmm. Yeah,
animals.
they're very smart too.
Yeah, and smart. And I think border collies are. We didn't do border collie because we thought maybe it would need too much exercise.
It does. I can attest to that. It needs a lot of exercise. Yeah.
But yeah, for us, my children love animals like donkeys, ponies. So when we came back from Ireland, we had stayed in this farmhouse that had two donkeys and a miniature pony.
Hmm.
And there's just something about the presence
Hmm.
was very calming.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Um, so then I did a little research on donkeys, and apparently donkeys are also very sensitive animals and
Mm.
highly intelligent. So we found a park in Palo Alto that has these rescued donkeys. So we went to visit them.
Wow. That's
It's called,
so cool.
I think they're called the donkeys of some park. I can't remember the name of it though. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry.
That's okay. That sounds really amazing. I'm going to check that out. The other thing too, you mentioned horses. Horses are really good for highly sensitive children. If you can afford to have your child get, lessons um, on horseback riding, or even just spending time. I don't know if they allow that, but just spending time with a horse on a regular basis, that is very healing for a highly sensitive child. There's horses are in general very healing animals, and there's been studies done in particular with highly sensitive children that benefit from interacting with horses on a regular basis. So yeah, horses are really cool
Now,
animals to interact with it for highly sensitive children.
like I have an understanding of the sensitivity, but how do you, since you're more of an expert on the
Mhm.
subject, what are the benefits? Like, how does this help a highly sensitive person? Like, what does it do?
Having a pet.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, well, first of all, for highly sensitive children, the most important thing is it helps them regulate their nervous system. It helps them get rid of any anxiety that they have, or at least if it doesn't get rid of it fully, it brings it down tremendously. So even as an adult, when you're highly sensitive and you're an anxious person, having a pet really helps with the anxiety. And
Is it because it puts you in the present? It sounds like makes you more in the present moment because dogs are very, and any pet is, they're all in the present moment. They're
yeah, and
they're very
also
mindful.
yeah, and also the energy that they bring, is that their energy and um the fact that they love you unconditionally. Animals in general tend to love you unconditionally. So your child gets exposed to what it's like to be loved unconditionally, and that's huge. And the fact is that highly sensitive children really need a lot of help with regulating their nervous system. So, as a parent, you can help them by teaching them somatic exercises. If you decide that you can't get a pet for whatever reason, somatic practices really help with regulating your child's nervous system. And I have an episode on that, and you can, go back and listen to that episode. But pets in general have healing powers as well. They have their energy, like cats. There's been a lot of studies done that if you have, cats that have owners who are not well, like health wise, they take that negative energy away from their owner. There's a lot of studies that has been done on that where the cat knows, oh, my owner is not well, and they basically come and they when they are kneading on you, for example, they're taking your negative energy onto themselves and neutralizing it. So there's a lot of studies on that. There's actually also a Netflix series on that talks about the benefits of having a cat and what they do for their owners as far as healing is concerned. Um, so
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I would say the most important thing that they do is regulate your nervous system. And then the other things that are very beneficial for a highly sensitive child is receiving unconditional love. Reducing anxiety. If your child has depression, it also reduces depression. Um, it also prevents your child from getting anxiety or depression, because again, regulating your nervous system is very important. And if you don't regulate your nervous system, highly sensitive people have a much more they're much more susceptible to getting mental health issues such as anxiety and depression, and also suicidal thoughts. That's very prominent in high sensitivity if they don't know how to regulate their nervous system. So that's why it's so important to understand high sensitivity, because if you don't understand it, it actually has a lot of negative implications. For example, I was actually listening to Matthew Perry's book, and at the end, I realized, oh my God, he's highly sensitive. In my professional opinion, I have never talked to him, but based on what he discusses, In his book, I think that he was a highly sensitive person, and I often wonder if he knew that he's highly sensitive, would he have known that his addiction is not because necessarily because he's addicted to alcohol and drugs, but his addiction comes from the fact that he doesn't know he's a highly sensitive person and therefore has not taken the time to figure out what he needs to do um, for himself to regulate his nervous system. I often wonder if a lot of, because highly sensitive people tend to be extremely creative. So a lot of actors and actresses, singers, songwriters, these types of people tend to be highly sensitive. And I often wonder if the reason that a lot of times these people end up being having a lot of mental health issues is due to the fact that they're highly sensitive and they don't know it and they're not addressing it because living a life as a highly sensitive person, if you don't know you are a highly sensitive person, can be very challenging. But if you know you're a highly sensitive person, that's a game changer. Like when I found out, I don't know about you, Romina, so you can tell us about your experience, but when I found out that I'm a highly sensitive person, my life changed dramatically for the better, dramatically. I mean, it went from me having so many issues in my life and not loving myself, not respecting myself, not valuing myself, not having any self-worth, to me loving myself, honoring myself, accepting myself. And that in itself opened up a whole new world to me. Like the people that come into my life are amazing people. They're really like it's a give and take relationship, whereas before I would only attract people that were narcissistic or takers that didn't want to give whatsoever. So I would always feel depleted. All the
Yeah,
time I felt depleted.
yeah. I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that highly sensitive people have to be careful because they do like to help people.
Yeah,
So the what you're talking about, the taker types
yeah.
can pick up on that and they'll take advantage of it. So you do have to be careful.
Because we have a high level of empathy, we tend to attract narcissists. So we have to be very careful when selecting our partners, like romantic partners, and also friends. Um, you yourself have a choice when it comes to picking your friends and picking your life partner or romantic partner. Um, but you don't have a choice. For example, when you go and get a job at a corporation, you can't say, I'm only going to select a company that has, people who are, you know, kind and loving and nurturing and givers and da 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 da. You can't help that. There are going to be
Yeah.
narcissistic people in that company, no matter how hard you try. There will be that type of
Yeah.
person.
And
Um,
it's up to the leader. I think some companies can foster a certain type of culture and not really allow
absolutely,
that type of behavior.
absolutely. Um,
I've worked for with different areas of like I worked in Washington D.C. I worked for a small company. I worked in San Francisco, San Mateo, and then San Diego and Santa Barbara. And I have to say, like there are different cultures, even by region, but also it's
yeah,
just like just by who's in charge. I think if you know who's in
absolutely.
charge, then you can find out what type of behavior they'll emulate. I did find that early in my career, I was very sensitive, and that did cause me problems.
Hmm.
Like I'd go home. I remember my first job, it was with I was a proofreader at a publishing company, I think.
Hmm.
And I just like, there were two ladies that just decided to be rude to me all the time, and I didn't understand why. So I remember calling that 1-800 number like every day after work,
Hmm.
trying to understand like why these ladies are mean. And
Hmm.
like, and I remember the lady on the phone was just like, they hired you, they want you to work there. It doesn't matter what these ladies are doing. So
Yeah,
I really struggled in the workplace with perhaps like certain type of maybe, I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to be mean in the
yeah,
first place. right? So I don't really understand it, but maybe there's like some sort of like competition, maybe, and that's a way to like get power over people. I don't know,
Well, a
but I
lot of it
did.
has to do with their own trauma in their life, whether it was through childhood or whether it was through adulthood. A lot of times, it has to do with the fact that they went through some traumatic experiences, and that's as a result, this is how they're reacting outwardly because they haven't done the work that they need to do on themselves to be a conscious person. And
Yeah, and I
so,
think a highly sensitive person. I'm not like that anymore about it because I did have somebody once tell me I stop being a sponge, right? I think I would go into an environment and absorb everybody's energies.
yes, we do that.
So
For sure.
I learned to now kind of have like a little bubble around myself,
Yes.
and it was good. That was good training to get. So I'm like you're saying about the regulation, I had do a lot better now. But when I was younger, I was really would cry about anything. Like if the music touched me, I'd burst into tears.
hmm
Couldn't watch violent movies.
Oh yeah, highly sensitive people don't watch violent movies. It's very rare that a highly sensitive person watches violent movies. Very rare. I have clients who do, but it's like I was shocked when I heard it because it was the only person that I know so far, the only person that I've encountered who's highly sensitive and watches violent movies. Like movies. By violent,
Oh,
I'm talking about horror movies, like
oh, okay, like Kill Bill or something like that.
yeah,
Or
or even that It
oh,
movie.
it. Oh, geez.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. I
I
saw that
did.
movie because I didn't know what it was about. My friend said, "Do you want to go to the movies tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, sure." And I didn't know what it was about because I was working so many hours at that time that I didn't have time to check it or anything. I was just
Yeah,
excited that I'm finally doing something out of the work. And I went, and oh my God. I was
yeah.
dying throughout the movie, and I really would have left if it wasn't for my girlfriend. But yeah, I only stayed because she wanted to see the movie, um, and
I bet your cortisol levels tripled.
probably this is a long time ago. This is before I became ill, uh, but yeah, it was. I didn't sleep for I think 3 or 4 weeks. I couldn't sleep at night.
Jeez. Yeah, I've seen excerpts of that for something I did through work.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I was like, I am not putting myself through that again.
yeah,
But other people will get a thrill from it. Like it's
yeah,
thrilling. Like, okay, yeah, I know. For me, like I'm not going to the movies to get stressed out. Like
yeah,
Mission
me too.
Impossible. Like, okay, Mission Impossible I'll do because my husband likes that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I get stressed out. I'm like, well, I don't want to go to the movies to get stressed out. And
Yeah,
he goes to movies and he finds it thrilling to watch those action movies. And I'm
yeah,
like, no.
yeah. I know. I mean, when I was married, I also would, watch things with my husband that I didn't really enjoy. But what I would do in those situations would be, okay, I would put my earplugs in and I would tune it out, so that I could be present with him, but I didn't have to be exposed to it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I would be like, okay, and I never told him that I have earplugs in
Funny.
because I didn't want him to feel badly that he's like, that I'm doing something that actually hurts me just so that I could be with him, because he loved it. So I didn't want to deprive him of that. And he didn't really enjoy doing that with his friends. He enjoyed doing it like watching the movie with me. So yeah, I learned to take care of myself and still be there for him, by just wearing earplugs. And then since he was so into the movie, I could totally like tune out and he wouldn't notice that I'm tuning out, especially because it's dark, right? He doesn't really see what I'm doing. Um, but yeah, it worked out for me that way. But yeah, if it's me myself, I would never watch those kind of movies because it doesn't. Definitely dysregulates my nervous system very fast and keeps me dysregulated for a very long time.
Well, tying back to pets, I think the nice thing about pets is that they're also very sensitive. So if you hear something, you can rest assured your pet has already heard it and they're
Yes.
listening too.
Yeah.
Like right now,
Absolutely.
we have like some contractors doing some work, and there's the cat sitting in the bed next to me, and she lifts her head, she looks around like, "What was that?" So it's not,
Oh my
so
God.
you're not alone in hearing noises and saying, "What's that
Yeah.
sound?"
Yeah. And going back to the question before we move on and wrap up the episode, I just wanted one other thing came to my mind is sometimes when the highly sensitive child is young, they don't have too many friends because they like to play on their own, especially if they're an introvert, because 70% of highly sensitive people tend to be introverts. I think it's 70, is it 70%? Um, I'm pretty sure it's
That's a pretty
70%.
big number.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 70%. Now, sometimes I get my numbers mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it's 70% of the population of the highly sensitive people population is introvert, they're introverts. And so if they're an introvert child and if they like to play on their own, it's really good for them to learn to interact with something else other than their parents. So the pet plays a big role in that, in developing a relationship. With that child learns to develop a relationship with the pet, and that's very helpful for them as well.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
yeah, okay, so let's talk about how to get ready for having a pet once you decide that you are going to get a pet, and once you decide on the type of pet you're going to get, then I highly recommend that you get prepared for the pet before they come home. So um, this would be like going shopping for the basics like the bed, crate in case of a dog, food and water bowls, treats, toys, grooming tools, and anything else that you think that your pet might need. Because when you bring the pet home, you want it to be an inviting environment for them. You want to already have everything that they need. Of course, once you have the pet, you'll realize that you need certain other things that you could get later on, but at least you'll have the basics in the house. And that takes time to go shopping and do all that. So you don't want to do it when you have an actual pet for the first time as well. And then introducing the pet. So gradually introduce the pet to your child if you feel like they're going to get overwhelmed. Because remember, a child's deep emotions is not just towards negative things, it's also towards positive things. So they might get overwhelmed with just joy and happiness too. So just introducing the pet gradually and letting your child decide when it's ready to engage with the pet. Sometimes it would be immediate because they're so excited to have that pet and they've been asking for it for a long time, and sometimes they might need some time to get adjusted to having a pet, so just be mindful of that. And then
Yeah.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
I was going to add about like certain pets may sound easier, but they're not. Like I'll use the example of fish. There,
Mhm.
you do have to get a lot of supplies for fish if you're going to get a fish tank with a motor, and depending on the temperature of the water and
Yeah,
how the pH of the water and all that. That's they think they seem low maintenance, but they're not.
yeah.
And if you're so my kids had a fish and then they decided to change the water and they ended up killing the fish.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that fish are really hard, easy to kill, actually. And so for a child, that could be a very dramatic, like a
Yeah.
traumatic, not dramatic, traumatic experience for them.
Yeah.
Even
So
as
what
an
do you think
adult,
like
it's
for when you
traumatic.
have a highly sensitive child, do you think it's good for them to experience that and learn how to regulate themselves through the experience?
No, I don't. I feel like it will, first of all, it depends on their age. If they're very young, I think it's not a good idea because that trauma could really last a long time, depending on how emotional your child is. For example, if that were to happen to me, if I was little, I think it would take me years to get over it because I was such a sensitive child. Like I loved animals from the very beginning. Even though we were not allowed to have animals, I would be going around in the neighborhood and giving all the stray cats food and milk and all kinds of stuff, just depending on what I would find. Like sometimes I would find kittens that were newly born, so I would go feed them. Like I would take milk with me and I would try to feed them and things like that. So I think you have a lot of things to consider: the child's age, how deep are their emotions, because every highly sensitive child is different. And so, for example, me, I have very deep emotions, whereas, for example, my brother is also highly sensitive, and he does have sensitive emotions. However, it's not the same as me. So he doesn't get bothered as much as I would get bothered. If I find an animal that's in need, or if I find an animal that is, injured in some way, I have to help that animal, where my brother can easily walk by and totally be okay with not helping the animal. And we're both highly sensitive. So, it all depends on the child's, like again, age, how emotional are they, what kind of impact do you think that would have on them? So I would definitely not do it at a young age. Maybe as a teenager, it might be okay to let them experience that. It would still be traumatic, but I think they have tools now that they can use to regulate themselves and to be able to heal from it. Um, but
Oh, that's a good point. That once
uh,
they're a little more mature, then they already have the tools. So you don't
yeah.
get the tools by going through it. You develop the tools first, and then when you go through it, then you can handle it.
Yeah, I think so, because that's such a that's just such a traumatic experience. Death is a traumatic experience to go through at any age, but I wouldn't expose young kids to it if I could help it. So I would definitely stay away from getting a fish, just because they're very easy to kill. Like unfortunately, in our culture, I'm Iranian, and we celebrate a Persian New Year, and one of the things that we put on our table is a goldfish, and sometimes several goldfish. And unfortunately, people don't know how to take care of them. So a lot of people end up killing them. And it just breaks my heart. And I don't understand. So I think finally people are getting to the point where they're a little bit more humane about it, and they're just putting fake fish on their tables. Um, but yeah, I never understood why they would keep getting fish when they knew they couldn't keep it alive.
Right. Well, that's great. Like my kids, I asked them, "Do we want to try again?" And they said, "No, we don't
Yeah,
want to
see?
kill. We don't want to kill any more fish."
Yeah, see, yeah. I don't think any highly sensitive kid is gonna say yes after they've killed an animal, whether it's a fish or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, also setting up a routine is really important, because highly sensitive children need a routine. So they need to know, they also need to understand what's their part in this. Are you expecting them, depending on their child, your child's age, for example, what are you expecting them to do with the pet as far as responsibilities are concerned? Are you expecting them, to change the litter box in a case of a cat, or are you expecting them to walk the dog if they have a dog? What is your expectation? That's very important that you make that very clear and make sure that they are in agreement with what you want them to do. Not just that you're giving them that order, but do they feel comfortable doing that? Because, for example, in this case of my niece, she was supposed to have the responsibility of walking the dog, but the dog is very unruly and he pulls. And she's, she's very tall and fit, and she doesn't weigh a whole lot. So, the dog can easily pull her to the point where she would, go face down on the ground. So, and it has happened before. So she doesn't like to walk the dog. And my brother and her, they have this conversation about the responsibility of her having to walk the dog and all, but it doesn't work for her because she doesn't want to keep getting dragged, and it's not fun to walk a dog that pulls you. It's that actually I've walked that dog. It's definitely not fun walking with him. He's very strong too. It's not just that he's a big dog, but he's very strong. And if he wants to pull you, he definitely will do it. Whether it's me, weighing a lot more than my niece does, or whether it's my niece, it doesn't matter. He can pull even my brother, who's much taller than me and much bigger than me. And then creating a safe space, both for the animal and for your child, so that um, if they need their own space and they need to retreat, they can whenever they want to. Like my dog, for example, when we come from a walk, she definitely doesn't want to be in the same room as me. She wants to be by herself, resting. She does not want to get bothered. So if I go in, like right now, she's in the bedroom. And if I go into the bedroom, she looks at me like, what are you doing here? It's my space. So she's like, definitely needs her time to be away from me as well.
Sounds like she's an introvert.
No, you know what she is? She is definitely an extrovert because she is extremely social when we go out. She's loves to be with people, absolutely gets her energy from people, which is all, a sign of being an extrovert. Like she makes me take her to the coffee shop every single morning, just because she wants to interact with everybody that's in there. And that's how she gets energized, is through the people. But I think she also, when we come home, she's a very independent dog, just like I am a very independent person. She likes her independence. So she's like, okay, we had enough time with each other. Now you go do your thing, I go do my thing.
Oh, yeah, okay. I guess that makes sense. My dog wants to be with us all the time, but she
Yeah,
can't always have that.
yeah, that's how my brother's dog is as well. The lab and German Shepherd mix. Yeah, he's definitely follows them even to the bathroom. My dog never comes in my
Oh.
bathroom because the shower is there.
Oh,
She
right.
knows
Oh.
it could be any time that I could be pulling her into the shower to give her a bath. But she never comes in my bathroom. If I call her, she runs the other direction. She definitely, or if she sees me going into the bathroom and she's following me, she retracts and goes back. So it's really funny. Any, Romina, any closing thoughts?
Well, I just think everything we've been talking about, our pets and our experiences with the pets, um, how they make us laugh, some conflict resolution when they take our toys, or if they have a bathroom issue, or the smell they cause. I think having a pet just overall is good for life and skills of dealing with problems, but also dealing with surprises that bring you joy.
Yeah.
I just think overall it's a wonderful experience and it's worth it if you can.
Absolutely. Especially if you are very careful in selecting the right pet and making sure that um, by selecting the right pet, you can foster a beautiful, rewarding, and supportive relationship.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Romina. I'm really excited that you were able to join us and give us your perspective and, your experience, especially given that you have children that are highly sensitive and that you have both a cat and a dog right now, and you had experiences with so many different animals in the past as well. Thank you. You've been such an amazing guest. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure to join you today and hear all
Thank you
about
so
your
much.
experiences.
Thank you. So, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be there with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.